Oh, Canada. Great start there, Chief. You got any hockey or Tim Hortons jokes next? You're the national equivalent of a mug of hot cocoa. Whether you're America's hat or the country with the world's largest pants, what's important is that you're having an election soon. Complete with debates, gaffes, horribly uncomfortable scandals, all conveniently packed in less than 1/10 of the time it takes the US to elect its turkey partner-in-chief. But of course, elections in Canada are a bit different than those south of the border, with the biggest difference being who serves as head of state. Yes, Canadian politics operate under the mercy of Her Majesty and by the grace of God, the Queen of England. Of course, this doesn't really mean anything in terms of her power, because she has none, but it conveys that Canada elects not presidents, but parliaments. The only race you'll be voting for will be for your member of parliament. None of the leaders you see on TV will be on your ballot unless you happen to live in their constituency. Because in addition to trying to become prime minister, these people are trying to win re-election as a member of parliament. So while you can't vote for the Prime Minister directly, you're casting your choice through the party affiliation of your local MP. Canada has 338 seats in its parliament, and has a very similar districting system to the US, where every province and territory gets a number of seats based on population, and each province gets divided into that number of districts. Sorry, it's Canada, they're different, they're called ridings, and each riding elects one member of parliament. Of course, combining this with a first-past-the-post voting system, as Canada does, creates vote splitting and minority rule, but Canada is too progressive to elect leaders who promise electoral reform and then abandon that promise once they realize the system enables their power. Who would do that? What are you talking about? Once all the MPs are elected, the parties will then tally up their seats. If one party wins a majority of seats, their leader becomes prime minister. If there is no majority out of a single party, then one must come out of some combination of parties who will govern together as a coalition. This is usually made up of similarly aligned parties, but can come from a broad coalition of groups that you wouldn't even think would share an Uber, much less a government. Even directly opposing big parties can form a government to shut out fringe groups that would have otherwise made up the difference. Finally, there's what's called a minority government, which is exactly as sad and lame and as ineffective as you think. If a minority party really wants to clinch that majority, they can ask a party to produce confidence and supply, where they're just like, yeah, we'll vote for you in like budgets and motions of confidence and other stuff. Why is it so important to have a majority in parliament? Well, it's because if you can whip your MPs into voting however you like, you can completely shut out the concerns of your opposition, because your majority will always outvote them. Being a rogue party member who doesn't vote on how the prime minister wants can have grave consequences on your political future, like snubbing you out of party nominations for the next election or straight up expulsion from the party altogether. This brings up some pressing questions on if you're really voting for a person with actual political will and independence, or a cog whose sole purpose is to be a proxy for their party leader. Well, unless you manage to elect a crossbencher, which is an MP that isn't part of the government or the opposition and so therefore might be able to swing votes, the answer should be pretty obvious. So what does this say about the rest of parliamentary systems? Are they really truly representative democracies? Because countries that demand representatives to march lockstep to party leaders instead of, representing constituents could probably use a better term to describe their system of government. We're still talking about Canada, right?